prediction in the OR.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tianzhou from Purdue University, and I'm here presenting the research entitled Early Turn-Taking Prediction in the Operating Room. So this is the agenda of my talk. Firstly, I will give you some introduction about the background, and then I will describe the methods that we developed, the experiments that we conducted, and the results that we have observed. First, let's start with the introduction. So we have observed some problems with the operating room. US will face a nurse shortage of 260 nurses, thousand nurses by 2025, and what's the consequence of that? Mortality risk is found to be 6% higher in hospitals which are understaffed with nurses. So there's a problem here, and what's the solution? Robots. So we propose to develop a robotic nurse which can take the role of the nurse and then do similar capabilities. So it has to be able to do at least 3 tasks. One is the automatically manipulate and recognize those surgical instruments. That is addressed in our another work. The second one is the capability to understand surgeons' turn-taking signals so that it can collaborate, and that is the focus of this talk. And lastly is the ability to do adaptive motion understanding. Considering that will be the future work. So this is the system overview. We have the human nurse, and we would like to replace it with the robot nurse. Here I will show a quick video of the system setup. So in this video, the surgeon is conducting the surgical task, and he's being monitored by some sensors. We are using Apple headband, the micro armband, and the Kinect sensor. And on the left side, you will see the real-time signals plotted. And then really the task of our paper is try to analyze those signals and then predict the turn-taking signals so that the robot can collaborate in a proactive manner. One thing that I want to point out is that our work only supports offline analysis right now, and this video is recorded based on a result of our study. But we are very close to getting into online usage. These are very tedious videos. I'm not going to go through all of it. You will get bored in a half just by watching it, and nurses, they get very tired of doing this, so we want to help them. That's the video. And so related work, turn-taking is not new. It has been studied since the 70s. Extensively in conversation background. And then recently there are some machine learning algorithms developed to do automatic end-of-turn detection in conversations. And there is some work about mathematically turn-taking modeling about human-robot interaction, mainly from Crystal Chow from Dr. Angela Thomas' group. So the major innovation of our work is, firstly, system-wise, we build a multimodal human-robot interaction system for human-robot in the operating room. And second is we develop an automatic feature selection process for raw signals. And lastly is we propose this early turn-taking prediction algorithm for human-robot interaction using long short-term memory networks. So now the methodology part. In order for the robot to understand how to collaborate with humans, it's first important to observe how humans work among themselves. That is the aim of this part, turn-taking in homogeneous human teams. For the experiment setup, we set up a recruit participants to conduct a simulated surgical task, which is abdominal incision closure. The steps is shown in this figure. The participant will act as surgeons, and they press surgical instruments from the human nurses. And then we recruit 5 subjects. Each of them repeat the task 5 times, and then each trial will require about 40 instrument requests. That in total will give us about 348 turn-taking instances. So while the surgeon is doing the surgical task, we record some data from the surgeon. As I mentioned, it's micro armband, Apple headband, and Kinect sensors. We record the motion information from the hand, the EMG signals, the EEG signals from the head, and the gyro information, and the body joint positions, acoustic experiences, the face orientation of the surgeon, and the body leaning. So in total, we achieve 50 measurements of a surgeon for each time. And then we perform a data level fusion because it's found to generate more expressive models. And that's a Michael Jackson movie there. So after we collected the data, we need to conduct the surgeon state annotation so that we can perform some machine learning algorithm on it. We define the surgeon's state to be either in resting state or operating state. A primary rater annotated all the videos, and then we have a secondary rater annotated 20% randomly picked segments. And we have run some Covax kappa tests to check the inter-rater reliability. So what are the cues that we base ourselves to do the annotation? So we use the torso movement, the gaze shift, the arm movement, the speech commands, and hand gestures. because they have been found by the literature to have high correlation with turn-taking regulations. And then for the requesting state, we define it to start at the earliest time of all the queues, and it ends at the latest time of all the queues. So based on this, we will annotate the signals, and then we will be ready to actually feed it into a machine learning algorithm. So now we'll talk about the actual early turn-taking prediction algorithm, which is basically trying to analyze those signals that we collect in the first phase, and then to predict the turn-taking signal of the surgeon. So it's some we did some channel pre-processing to smooth the signal. We use exponentially weighted moving average, and then we conduct the global normalization to preserve potential offset. And then the feature selection method is very simple and effective. It's inspired by Moran's approach, but in addition, it works with continuous signals as input. The idea is basically to firstly cluster each channel into binary levels, and then we conduct a chi-square test with the ground truth so that we can see the significance levels and rank all the features based on the significance levels. It's a very straightforward method, but it works. And then we feed those selected signals into these long short-term memory networks. So it's a special type of recurrent neural network which brings gating scheme into the picture to model long-term dependencies. It has been successfully applied to several areas, and then we applied a one-to-one training approach which can support early recognition because for each input, for each time instance, we can generate output for that same time instance. And it also avoids the need of temporal segmentation. In the bottom left, you will find the formulas which characterize LSTM network, and in the bottom right, you will find the illustration of a single cell of LSTM. It has an internal memory unit which can remember from the past. So to compare it, we select an algorithm benchmark. We just use a dynamic time warping. It's a widely used sequence modeling algorithm. It is old, but it works. Recent work found that it's actually working as good as a lot of fancy counterparts. The training is essentially to find a node which has the least cumulative distance with the rest of the group, and the testing is based on a nearest neighbor approach, which is very straightforward. And what's more is we also are concerned with how our algorithm compares with how humans perform that task, because we don't want to just compare ourselves with other algorithms. We want to see how humans perform. So how to do that? We actually show or recruit participants and show the recorded videos of the same surgery to the participants. The video will be paused randomly, and then the participant will be asked whether the surgeon wants an instrument or not in the immediate next moment. Through this approach, we actually collected humans' performance about turn-taking prediction. So then I will talk about the experiment setup and the results that we found from the experiments. So this is the experiment setup. We collect our own data set, annotate them. We conduct a machine learning basic evaluation. We use the F1 score as a single evaluation metric to see how the algorithm is performed. And then one thing that I want to point out is we calculate the prediction accuracy for each partial point tau. Tau is a uniform distribution from 0.1 to 1, and at each time tau, we only use a partial observation from the beginning to that portion, so that we can actually evaluate how good it is to predict the future instance. These are some of the hyperparameters that we use for the LSTM network. So then the results that we found. So we have two experiments. The first experiment, we want to evaluate how good the feature selection method is. We fix the classification method, LSTM, and then we check the prediction accuracy using different feature sets. We have the full data, full set, which is 50 channels, the green curve. We have the top 10 selected features, which is a red one. And then we also have the binary encoded top 10 selected features, which is a blue curve. So if you look at the bottom left figure, so the y-axis is the average F1 score, the higher the better. And the x-axis is the percentage of full action, which is the tau value. In the left side, only 10% of the data is given to the algorithm to make a decision, and on the right side, the full action is given to the algorithm to make a decision. So the left side is more difficult. So what we have found out is that definitely the selected top 10 features outperforms the full data set, and then we find that the binary encoded version actually didn't work as well. Because we think it's due to a potential loss of information. On the bottom right chart, you will find the top ranked features. we have found that actually the motion information is the most dominant ones. Even though we include the EEG and EMG signals, they didn't make it into the final selected features. We believe that it's EEG and EMG signal processing requires a very sophisticated process to actually get meaningful information out of that, which in the future we might want to do that as well. So that's the first experiment, and this is the second experiment. The purpose is to compare the LSTM network with dynamic time warping, which is the algorithm benchmark, and also the human performance. So we fix the feature set, which is the top 10 selected features, and then compare the prediction accuracies using the 3 different approaches. So it's the same figure. The x-axis is the percentage of action, and the y-axis is every F1 score. So we have found that firstly, LSTM is much better than ETW, so it greatly outperforms its algorithm counterpart. And then at the beginning stage, it actually achieved a better performance than human. And in the later stage, it achieves comparable performance. We believe that this is due to the reason that humans actually sometimes want redundancy to double check the information that we get. So in the very beginning stage, they might not make a very good classification, while our algorithm can capture those subtle cues and then make a good prediction. So that's the that we got from this experiment. Then the conclusion and future work. So to summarize, we designed a multimodal human-robot interaction system for the operating room. We propose an automatic feature selection method. It's simple and it's very effective. We developed an early turn-taking prediction for human-robot interaction using long short-term memory networks, and then we conduct the human computational experiments to validate the system. From the future work, so we are thinking to do more advanced sensor fusion using Dempster-Shaffer theory to bring more richer context information. Because surgery is a very context-rich task. We want to bring that information into the picture. We want to enhance spatial temporal encoding techniques before we actually start feature selection. We want to combine the prediction results with the actual robot planning. That is definitely the next step to really actuate the robot with the decision that we got here. I would like to thank you, our sponsors and the volunteers involved in this task, and thank you for all your attention, and I would like to take questions. Here you will find the references. Great. Thank you.
Matt, and if the other speakers can come up and start picking your places, that'd be great.
Thank you for your presentation. One of the challenges with developing smart systems for healthcare is that as soon as you do something more than just a simple, if your heartbeat is less than a minute, then we're going to signal alarm, you're going to start assuming a lot of risk about your system. And I'm wondering what you might be able to say about the use of LSTM and neural networks in a safety critical system.
Okay, that's an excellent question. So whenever I propose this work, people ask about safety, because definitely in the operating room you want safety concerns, right? You want your system to be system free. I will say that's a tough question. If the algorithm is performing very, very good, then you have some confidence that, hey, this system is working most of the time. But that's not going to be convincing enough to actually deploy your system. So honestly, I don't have an answer to your question. One thing that definitely we want to, like for example, in the later proactive robot motion planning stage, we would like to include the patient's information as a part of the motion planning. Definitely we don't want the robot to hit the patient when it's moving its motions. I will say we will do all these things to our very best, and then it's really like the community's reaction to it. It requires some time, like autonomous driving. Some people will start using it, or some people will be more conservative about it. So I'm not sure if I answered your question.
I think it's an open question.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys.